Now we're looking at some components of why youth matter in ASEAN. Youth is the heartbeat of ASEAN's future, and as we look at some of the stats and some of the interests in terms of entrepreneurship and wanting to make a difference within ASEAN, what are we seeing? What is the current landscape, if you will, and how far can we take ASEAN with the willpower of the youth?
So much, Jessie. As of course the chair of ASEAN this year, everybody is anticipating to see Malaysia do the right thing to consolidate the voice of the region, including the youths. Because as other part of the world, ASEAN is not excluded from having a young population. Around 200 million, or one-third of ASEAN population are youths. So why does it matter? I think if we compare to the global community, you could see that the Southeast Asian region's youth are quite vocal in expressing their opinions on core issues, for example, on climate change, on governance, on democracy. And why? Because I think they are affected by this, they feel this. And many waves of the change or the revolution that has happened throughout the history, and of course in this region, are driven by youth. And most parts of it, of course, are driven by mahasiswa or students. This is replicated, for example, in Thailand during the general election. The biggest party that won the election was the Thailand Move Forward Party, which is a very young party consisting of young people. Series of demonstrations that we saw in Indonesia as well as Malaysia to push back against policies that they believe should be improved. And of course now with the rise of social media, the usage of digital media, is very much easy to voice out, to make campaigns that are formidable to making change. So this is why youth voice in ASEAN matter and has to be taken seriously, because they are not only the future of the region, but it's simply because they truly care about what is happening at their backyard in ASEAN.
We talked about here in the studio as well a little bit about infrastructure and costs, and there needs to be internal will and of course a match in terms of the vision moving forward that can provide platforms of different natures to youth for the youth's voice to be heard. How and at what point do we begin that ecosystem, if you will, or how do we kickstart that? We've got areas of empowerment. You've got education. There's just so many aspects that really need to be, or many boxes that need to be ticked here, Anas.
Yes, Jessie. First, I think it's about calling ourselves people from ASEAN. With over 670 million people across 10 nations, of course, diversity is our strength. But people from Europe call themselves European, but have we called ourselves, people of ASEAN? I don't think so. So that kind of identity is not there yet, and I think it's very much vital for us to feel that we belong to the ASEAN family. And second, we are living in an uncertain time of geopolitics and geoeconomics, which of course will affect our youth and of course their opportunities. And no country, not even the big players, can tackle today's challenges alone. And what is driven by the current chairmanship of ASEAN by Malaysia, for example, the tariff situation imposed by the US, we are going and we are negotiating en bloc. Because why? Because when we are fighting or when we are going in bloc, we have 670 million voices, in which that it is a strength that not many other blocs have. So that is the strength that we have to leverage. And I think another thing would be a regional network for ASEAN youth would be key. Young people, over 200 million people, are ready to collaborate, and they need the platforms to connect, as you mentioned. Fourth Youth ASEAN Youth Dialogue is currently happening as we speak. I represented Malaysia to Jakarta in 2023, and this is a crucial dialogue to bring youth leaders from all across ASEAN to come together and to discuss the crucial issues concerning about youth and to advise the leaders of ASEAN, all 10 leaders, on what kind of support that should be given for our youth. So I think this virtue of openness is our strength in ASEAN, and it should be leveraged upon.
On the back of that, Anas, as Malaysia plays, the chair role here at ASEAN, what bold initiatives should Malaysia take in terms of leading the way to empower youth, not just by symbol but by structure, and having some firm, ways forward, some firm ideas or suggestions for the way forward, Anas?
Thank you so much, Jesse. First, I think we should have a mechanism for youth to voice out our opinions. The current ASEAN Youth Dialogues platforms are quite crucial, but not like the summit. This only happens once a year. The summits happen twice a year. So in a kind of, I think, formal advisory for ASEAN youths to give out and to voice out their opinions for the ASEAN leaders to consider, I think to formalize this would be crucial. And number two, I think we also have to cover the essence of education, because ASEAN hosts many universities, so that cross-border exchange within our universities would be crucial to expose all of our ASEAN youth in working together to understand what are the challenges that we have within our countries and within the neighbors of our region. And of course, number three, as I mentioned, we should always have this identity of being people from ASEAN. And this can be started by, I think, cultural exchanges for our youth. Because if you see, there are quite a big gap in between all of our ASEAN countries. So equity must be there. And I think the framework of market Madani economy framework that is espoused by our Prime Minister, which is to raising the floor and to raising the ceiling as well, would be important to ensure that everyone should be equitable and to count the bloc of ASEAN and to leverage forward.
Anas, I want to thank you for your time and for joining us as well, and being a voice for the youth.